Hi everyone, I am Heather from Grounded Approach, and I'm back today with another video for helping you with your gut healing journey. If you are doing the GAPS diet or some other gut healing diet, or you just have gut issues, one of the biggest problems we see is constipation. In fact, when I work with clients, that's one of the first things I ask them, do you tend more toward diarrhea or constipation? In the case of constipation, we really need to work to make sure we're having a bowel movement every day, because our gut, that long tube, is our main detox organ. And it's important to be, processing everything and getting rid of it, or else it just kind of circulates in your body. Specifically, if you're doing a gut healing diet and you're having like fermented foods and meat stock, you're killing off a lot of that bad pathogenic yeast and bacteria. When they die, they release chemicals and toxins, and we don't want that circulating in your body. There's a reason we feel so good when we have a bowel movement, okay? It's your body detoxing and getting rid of things. So we really want to focus on having one of those a day if possible. This is where the #1 food for constipation comes in, and it is homemade sour cream, or crème fraîche is the fancy word for it, because sour cream sounds kind of gross to people. So if you are doing the introduction protocol or the full GAPS, many people actually struggle to break down yogurt or kefir or whey, because these are actually really high protein foods, and protein's a little bit more difficult to digest. Where homemade sour cream is really high in fat, and that does two things for the body. The first one is it lubricates the bowel lining. It's kind of like putting oil in something, it just makes it really slippery and really helps things get out of there. So that's because it's high in fat and low in protein. It just really lubricates those bowels. And the second reason is it's really high in Bifidobacterium. Depending on what you culture it with, which we'll get into later, it will have different probiotics in it. And Bifidobacterium is great for the bowel. One of the reasons for constipation, probably the main reason, is that people have an imbalanced gut bacteria. They have an overgrowth of bad bacteria, and they don't have enough good bacteria that break down food. So it just kind of gets stuck in there. And our gut lining is like 40,000 feet long, so it can take a bit of time to fully reestablish that. People go, okay, I'm eating sauerkraut, why isn't my gut healed? It's like, well, it's probably taken a few decades, if not generations, to get your gut in this place, so it's gonna take a little time to fully recover and rebalance that gut microbiome. But yes, the homemade sour cream is really high in that Bifidobacterium, which is meant to be in your bowel and help you break down food, so it's gonna repopulate that really well. And just another benefit of homemade sour cream, I know people are like, oh, cream, cholesterol, saturated fat. Let's just get into that myth real quick. Every cell in our body is made of saturated fat. It has a membrane, which is like the outer shell. It helps to signal from cell to communicate. And that is made primarily of fat, mainly saturated fat. Saturated fat gives it structure, rigidity, so that it can basically hold its shape. Our hormones are made of saturated fat and cholesterol. All of our sex hormones come from cholesterol. I've had people who are infertile for years, multiple miscarriages, and I ask them about their diet, and we just make tiny adjustments. I'm like, you need some cholesterol and saturated fat. And then they start drinking raw milk and raw dairy and eating butter. I give them the freedom to do that, and then they fall pregnant and have babies. So I've seen that. That's my personal experience. It's not always that simple, so I'm really sorry if you're struggling with fertility. I don't mean to make light of it. But in some cases, I'm just trying to highlight the importance of cholesterol in the body. And finally, our brain is about 60% fat, and most of that is saturated fat. It's essential for creating our neurotransmitters and just everything in our gut. And finally, by the way, homemade sour cream, I'm just gonna throw this in, is really high in butyrate, which is a short chain fatty acid that heals and nourishes the gut lining. So when we eat like a high fiber diet, we're supposed to have good bacteria that breaks it down and turns it into that butyric acid, that short chain fatty acid. If you're having problems with that, or you're on a carnivore diet or something, this is where the raw dairy, like ghee, butter, and sour cream, is so helpful, because it contains that naturally. So it's actually feeding your gut cells and helping them to restore. Okay, so now that we're all on board with the homemade sour cream, I'm gonna go over the two simplest ways to make it. It is so easy. So first, you need cream. This was meant to be full, but my husband really likes those smoothies, so it is almost empty. But you can take raw cream or pasteurized cream. You ideally don't want the ultra pasteurized kind, and you want it to be organic from a good dairy as much as possible, but do the best you can with cream. It's quite hard to get it raw where I am in Australia, so I just do the pasteurized. but this is organic, Mongali, biodynamic, really good stuff. And all you do is you pour it into your container, pour in the raw cream, and then you either take a tablespoon of yogurt or a tablespoon of kefir. You're not gonna add the kefir grains, you're just gonna add the homemade kefir. Stir it up, put the lid on it, and put it in a warm environment. So if it's the middle of winter, maybe you wanna put it in your oven with the light on. You don't want it to be hot, but warm is good. So I'm guessing around like 80 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. I haven't worked with Fahrenheit in a while, but around that. If you have an Instant Pot, there is a setting for yogurt and it just keeps the water lukewarm so that it can culture. And so what I'll do is fill up my Instant Pot with water, put a few jars in it, and then just lightly put the lid on and keep it going for 24 hours. Okay, so going back to that, I'm getting into too much stuff, I get really excited. But this is seriously so easy, guys. So you throw your cream in, and then you add either a tablespoon of your homemade raw yogurt or even store-bought yogurt, as long as it's good stuff, not like the sugary Dannon crap, or a tablespoon of kefir in there. Stir it up, let it sit for 24 to 48 hours. It'll thicken up, then you just put it in your fridge and you have homemade sour cream. It is so easy. Now, how do you eat it? I'm gonna give you my favorite ways. The first is putting it on soup. Okay, oh my gosh, can you imagine like a really good beef soup or like cream of something soup, cream of mushroom, like a dollop of that on top. Absolutely delicious. You wanna make sure the soup isn't boiling hot, because if it is, it's gonna kill that beneficial bacteria, those probiotics. Another great way that my friend loves is having it as a yogurt replacement. So she'll do like quite a few tablespoons in a bowl, almost like yogurt, with berries or seasonal fruit, maybe a little honey, and eat it like almost like a super thick yogurt. That's delicious. A lot of my clients love that. It's a huge treat. Or I actually like to do it like a Russian custard. So if you've read the GAPS book, one of the recipes that Dr. Natasha McBride recommends is Russian custard, which is basically blended up egg yolks. You blend them for like 10 minutes so they get quite frothy with honey and a little salt. It's really nice. But if you add sour cream, it almost tastes like cheesecake filling. It is so, so good. And my clients have a ton of success with this for constipation. So if you're dealing with constipation, I really would encourage you to remove the yogurt, remove the whey, remove the kefir, and you can replace it with the homemade sour cream. So one quick point I wanted to make, if you use a yogurt culture to make your homemade sour cream, it's gonna taste more like your store-bought sour cream. It's gonna be mild in flavor, and it's gonna have the bacteria from yogurt. So some of the Bifidobacterium, but it's only gonna have a few strains. Where if you make it with the kefir culture, it is gonna have way more strains of probiotics because there's such diversity in the kefir culture, but it will likely have a bit of a different flavor. So if you're just like, give me the health benefits, you might wanna go for the kefir, but if you're really a foodie and you're like, not sure you're gonna like the flavor, I would start out with the yogurt because this can be a little bit effervescent, and it can also tend to taste a little cheesy sometimes. So I just want to give you that heads up. And then this is also going to be a lot stronger. So if you haven't had kefir yet, you want to start very, very small because it is a very strong probiotic. So I hope that helps you in your constipation journey. Thanks for watching.